Happy Labor Day to all of those that celebrate here in the United States, and just out enjoying this beautiful mountainous community that I live in, and taking a walk, enjoying my matcha blended from Ladro. Thank you, Ladro, for always being a consistent in this area. And wanting to get more into the omens today. It's not bright out, so let's take those off. I love working on the books. I absolutely love working on the books. I love working on my doctoral dissertation and research as well. But this book is really special, I'm telling you. It is absolutely the first of many books. I've mentioned it before, and I'll let people know again. Omens have been around for pretty much, as far as I can tell, most civilizations for tens of thousands of years. This book that I'm producing and publishing this year by the end of 2024, which is called As the Universe, So the Soul, Everyday Omens and What They Mean. I started channeling as an omnidimensional author, which is something else to discuss and that you'll find on my channel here, because it's a new literary personage and genre, but it's existed and we have existed forever. I started, hello, I started channeling this book back in 2020 when I started communicating with the celestials a lot more intensely. And I have over 60 resource documents right now, and the list keeps growing. So I know that this is only the first book that's going to be out there, the first guidebook. And so this series of continually talking and inviting people in to talk about the different omens that they've been experiencing and a lot of the nuances that you'll find in the book, things that might not have been published for hundreds or maybe even thousands of years, but that absolutely have been known by different civilizations, actively practiced by different civilizations. But one of the things that I wanted to open with, in this series, since this series is new and I just started it here in August on this channel, is the a piece of the intro of the book of this first guidebook, because I found it in a 1927 article, academic article that referenced other 1920s articles around omens from different countries and different civilizations. And this was for, I believe, an Indian publication, and it was called Distinguished Animals. And I pulled it up because one of the things that I found is that even though I have over 60 source documents, which I do not believe will all be able to be in this first book. That's why I think that it's multiple guidebooks, or it's going to have multiple editions where I update them along the way. But this particular one was very, very focused on one of my current totem animals, which is the owl, and the different levels of knowledge from different civilizations of the owl. And I really had Great Owl come through me this week quite a bit. In fact, I had two animals, even on my walk here to do this live today. I had a dragonfly literally buzz around me and then stop and buzz like right in front of me and look at me. And that's happened like 3 times at least this week alone. So when things like that happen, even if there's a ton of dragonflies around, when they're doing certain things, and this is how nuanced the omens get, when they're doing certain things or they're in certain environments, or you're on a walk to go talk about the book that you're publishing or something that you're passionate about, whatever your state of energetic vibration, whatever has been going on around you, and what the animal or the weather pattern or the celestial is doing is going to be another nuanced level of what it could mean. And so for a dragonfly to not just buzz around, but to purposely, and I captured this on film in a store. Like I was in a store shopping and it randomly came in. Yes, the store had a garden center, but still inside the store, like, and then for the dragonfly to be like literally like buzzing all around you and you're just standing there watching it. It knows that you're watching it and it comes like right up to you and stops and looks at you because they can hover, and then speeds off. It's the same thing that just happened on my walk here. So, and I had a bunch of synchronicities with my totem animal, owl. And one of the things that showed up this week with owl was this particular paper, that focused just on owl omens. Or I'll find that it's a subsection of a book, or I'll find that it's, you know, omens are like throughout so many different pieces of literature, because it's been such a hugely historical knowledge base for foretelling, for affirming. And it's really what we're doing is we're being in operation with everything that's around us all the time. Animals can just show us a lot clearer. Weather is a much larger picture that usually has to do more with like the regional environment, even though you can walk into weather patterns. Excuse me. You can walk into weather patterns, and there are known scientific weather patterns where it is literally like a rain cloud following you and just you. Like, and that happens, or lightning strikes that are just only happening in one spot, even though the entire storm is everywhere around you. Those are all indicators. If it is, if it is out of the ordinary, and it just it gets your attention somehow, but then what are you vibing around it, and what is the animal or what is the weather pattern doing around you? That absolutely has to do with this. So anyways, out of all of these source texts, they're not all books. They're not all, inscribed stones that are pages upon pages, or scrolls, pages upon pages of stuff. Life in Florida. I know. I am so missing Florida right now. I'm reacting to comments in the chat. I am so feeling Florida big time. I don't know if it's like the changing of the seasons and I keep like really just putting myself on the beaches there, or I am projecting, I'm attracting, whatever it's happening. It's just like, oh man, I can't wait. But I love all the environments. There's so many things that are always happening, right? And that has to do with where are you vibrating at that place? What does that have to do with your astrocartography, which is your astrology mapping that's, in correlation with the ley lines on Earth? Are you being attracted to particular places? All of these things mean something. And ancients and indigenous people, they've been the keepers of that wisdom and knowledge that's greatly been, not shared, hidden, esoteric, occult, shamed, whatever it has been for hundreds of years, thousands of years. It's coming back up. And this is why I'm here and to help bring it back up. So these 60 plus source documents, and there's going to be many more, I can tell you already. You can just do a Google Scholar search and you're going to find like a ton of stuff. There's omens on marriages, omens, like so many things, right? And like I said, I was raised and these things, and I've been practicing now for over 4 years distinctly since I started connecting with the celestials, specifically about this. And they're, they're, absolute. Like when I say that dragonfly energy is around me, I am absolutely in this archetypal energy of, transmutation and transformation and, perseverance and just a lot of stuff like that. But also for my owl to come through this week in multiple ways through different people, and in different ways, like completely different ways, is just amazing. But one of the things that I want to put out there in this episode or this, discussion today, is what you're going to find in the intro, or one of the pieces that you're going to find in the intro to the book. And I have my notes on it because I found it in this 1920s paper, and I never really looked into it myself, but I'm a logophile. I love words. I love understanding what the spellings behind them are, because language is not our inherent communication. It's, like it's a test. It's not a test. It's a experience to have language, to have oral and written language that we're in right now, to see, how we can master this level of communication, because our inherent communication is telepathic, it's energetic, it's frequency, it's what we communicate with and around us, with animals and children or babies or nonverbal, humans, with nature. It's how we inherently operate. And so I'm usually always looking at language and words, like, obsessively almost sometimes. And so it really was interesting to me that Great Owl, who is the knowledge sharer, brought it into my awareness through this particular paper that I was putting into the book this week, specifically about owl omens. And the introduction to the paper talked about what the word omen came from, in multiple languages and cultures throughout history. And it was so fascinating to learn this bit of the spell of the word omens. And so I have to put it in the introduction. And I'm going to cite some of it here so that you also understand not only things that you can expect from the guidebook, or guidebooks, but also, these rich nuggets of information that just expand the dimensionality of what we're talking about, what you're going to use as a resource, where this is coming from, the different nuances of knowledge around it, right? And one of the spells of the word omen has many different cultural and language um, correlations with a particular animal that is known for being a huge indicator of omens. You see that? Like, they're buzzing around me, seriously. I'm vibing at it. Okay, so the word omen, and I'm using the current modern English translation of this word omen, because there's many words within English even that really kind of depict the same thing, which is forecasting or acknowledging, something that happens, or some kind of awareness that comes about that helps you understand something different. It's not always forecasting, sometimes it's just acknowledging what you're already thinking about, what you're already doing, but there is, like, a divination within it. It's an energetic and it's a frequency alignment, and it helps us be able to practice more and more in our everyday life, how to be able to be in alignment and remember how to be in alignment in our physical and energetic bodies with everything that's around us. And when you practice meditation, when you practice mindfulness, these things just naturally start happening. People call them synchronicities. There's, astral, travel, deja vu, things like that that'll start appearing, because it's really our omnidimensionality that's starting to show up. We're being able to communicate on our natural level with any and all dimensions and beings, and you just practice that more and more. And so the actual physical things that are around you, like nature, like animals, like even the celestials, they're able to tap into our communication with them easier and easier the more that you practice. But anyways, I wanted to bring this up because it's really good to understand from the very get-go how a book is being formulated, how it's being thought about, because books are vessels as well, just like language is a vessel. Books are, energetic vessels, and so you're stepping into another person's world, or another world that's been created, or another level of knowledge that's been being remembered, but it is still like an energetic vessel of some kind. And so, omen is a huge word being used within this book as a guidebook, as a way of practice in life. And so, it's important to understand what does the word omen mean and where does it come from? Where's the history of it, right? Etymology is a huge field in languages that has so many different layers of the spell within it. It's so fascinating to research and play detective of where a word can come from. Never thought of it like that or heard it. Oh, well, good. Thank you. Hopefully, we're always learning something new every day. Yesterday, I learned like lots of things at once. It was crazy. Definitely my great owl totem animal coming through. So I'm going to get into this part of the introduction so that you can understand, what is this book really helping guide, and what are these different ways that you can approach it through the languages of just the word omen. So omen is synonymous with the word bird in multiple languages and cultures. And I'm going to do some more research into that because obviously, this introduction to this paper, this 1920s paper about owl omens in particular, sparked my curiosity for what is the spell of omens, right? What are all of the nuances of omens? So I'm going to have a lot more in the introduction, but this is like a little snippet to look forward to. So in the English language, auspices is a favorable omen term. It means, like a positive omen, a positive indicator of an outcome. And in English, it's derived from the Latin term avis, which means bird. So there's that. Now, going back a ways, this is how long this stuff has been a spell in languages. In Sanskrit, the word for omen is shakun, which also translates to bird. And then from Sanskrit came Gujarati, which is an Indian language and culture, or what we currently sometimes call the country of India. It's a region of India. Yeah, birds. Birds are huge indicators. I mean, the word is literally in multiple languages and civilizations coming from and derived from the word for bird. So, in Gujarati, the word sagan means omen, and it comes from the word shakun, which means bird. So Sanskrit and the same word for omen and bird translated down into some different Indian language um, evolutions and continued the paralleling of both the word bird and the word omen. And in modern Persian, the word for omen is margwa, which also means bird. So historically, older, cultures, older languages have had this synonymous, word or this etymology within bird, and in even in modern English, words that mean, or are derived of like the word omen, also come from Latin terms that mean bird. So I have a lot more to do to, put into this introduction because that in and of itself just sparked a whole lot. And there obviously is going to be a lot of history behind that, but this is a very, very old spell that you can look forward to walk into as a guidebook, as a way of helping you with these practices that has existed for tens of thousands of years through multiple cultures. It is synonymously carried throughout both, which is really, really powerful if you think about it, because a lot of the words that we have that we still use or that have very, very subtle variations, or you can see the attribute, previous history and language of them, it's a stronger and stronger energetic vessel that they, exist within. And so it's just another way of being able to help people understand not only the history of how many different cultures and civilizations have, made these distinctions and practice and knew the knowledge so much so that their language reflected it directly. But how long we've been in practice of being one with everything that is around us and being attuned to the different nuances of it. So, yeah, I invite people to leave in the comments when you come back here on Sundays. We're usually going to be talking about one or two things: omnidimensional authorship and or omens. This book is going to be coming up here in the next couple of months on Amazon so that you can start using it. And I've been invited and have a number of interviews that are going to start coming out, in preparation for the book to be out, but also, especially after it's launched, and to help people understand, all of these different nuances within it, because just even this one paper as an indicator of the different research that they had done specifically about owl omens not only gave this introduction of how the language is so tied to birds in general around this wisdom and knowledge, but about how diverse the applications are. And that's why I'm saying, like, I already have 60 plus like source documents, and some of them are entire books, some of them are entire series of magazines that have existed within cultures for hundreds of years, passing down this knowledge that still exists today. I did an episode on the Old Farmer's Almanac. They are actively tapping into the omens that have existed, that they started in the late 1700s under. Those are the predictive models. Those are some of the predictive models. Now they integrate it with modern science and technology and things like that. But make no mistake, it is still in our cultures, and right under our noses if we don't already recognize it. And it's been throughout on very substantial levels throughout different civilizations and cultures. But when you have these really specific nuances, like an entire 6, 7, 8 page paper just on all of these different omens within one bird, aspect. It was just within one bird. It talked about the different owl types, but even to that extent, researching all of these different types of owls, there's so many different types of owls throughout all of the world, and there's so many different ways that you can see it, and there's a history behind it, even about how owls have went from being this revered knowledge sharing archetype of an animal, an omen, to becoming something that was feared or despised or neglected. And so it's really interesting. You can start to see the undercurrents of the histories through things. And that's one of the things that I'm spelling out in this book. Not only the research text, so that you can go back and you can look at these things yourself too and see these golden threads throughout history of how did this particular animal and its omens like translate for different people in different civilizations and cultures, and why might that have come about, right? Which I don't really put in the guidebook, because the guidebook is the guidebook. It gives you the country, it might give you the specific area of the country, but I don't give you the historic timeline of it. I don't give you the context that it was written about. I give you the guidelines to start looking for, so that I can put as much into these guidebooks as possible, and you can go out into the world and start practicing it for yourself, right? But I also have the source documents in there, so that if you come across an omen, and I invite people to do this, if you come across an omen that you find is questionable, You don't understand it, it doesn't vibe with you, or the opposite, it completely aligns. You are seeing it active in front of you all the time, and you're like, what the hell? I need to know more about this, right? Then go back and find the source document. Most of these things are in the public sphere, the public publishing sphere. So you can find them on places like Google Scholar, on Internet Archive. There's not very many pieces that I'm bringing in that are behind paid academic walls. There are some because they're more in-depth books that have been, curated by leading archaeologists and translators of ancient Babylonian, tablets and scrolls. So when it's something like that, yeah, you might need to have access to it, which if you have any kind of person that you know within academic circle, they can usually source it through their library. You can even get it from a library if you go get a library card and you request it. Usually public libraries will help you, at least in America, access even, material that's behind paid walls. But a lot of what I've been putting in here, it's everywhere. It's literally been everywhere. It's still underneath our noses right now. And so I encourage people, and that's why I want to continue to have, this series and these lives so that you can put in the comments, put in the chat, come here, talk about what have you been seeing lately? What in the guidebook has inspired you? Did you look into any of the source documents? Because when I'm sourcing these, it's for this guidebook and for that purpose. And yes, I'm like reading through them, but my editing is towards being able to capture the omen within the information. So no, I'm not reading over 60 source documents and the whole thing because like I said, some of them are like, volumes of a series, or some of them are entire books, and it takes me a month to go through and be able to, edit all the information. So I'm going to be discovering things as other people do too, especially when people get into the information and the history behind it. And I've actually started reaching out to some academic scholars that have been cited in some of these pieces that are still alive because, just by me referencing this 1920s paper, not a lot of people that have been talking about omens or publishing about omens, unfortunately, are always still around to be able to interview or discuss these things with. But it is important at points to be able to have more of the in-depth information around it. I am titling or giving myself this moniker of the academic oracle. So it's very apropos that I will bring academics on here to be able to talk about their specific findings and their books. And one of them I trust will be my astrological instructor, Rumen Khalaf, who had come to astrology years ago through being an academic and through translating ancient Babylonian Sumerian texts that he found, astrology fans were attending his academic sessions and his translative sessions because that's how much of the ancient knowledge back in tens of thousands of years ago that those cultures integrated astrology into their everyday worlds. And the other thing that was integrated all the time were omens. Omens and astrology forecast and or acknowledge a vast majority of what we now are translating and understanding about these ancient civilizations. And like I just said with the word omen, how many different languages in all of these different countries that this has been carried through from Persia to Sanskrit to English and Latin. It's there. Everything's been there. And it's just time for us to be able to recapture this, at least for those that are interested in being able to practice being more attuned to our world and understanding the different dimensions and the different ways that we can interact and that other things are interacting with us and we might not even be paying attention yet, let alone understand how to interact with them. But if you have a dragonfly buzzing around you or an animal of some kind, and they purposely stop and they look at you, you know that something's there. You know that something is going on. And we all have had those moments where a bee lands on you, a ladybug lands on you, a great elk crosses your path randomly, in a faraway road or path. you have, you know, some kind of rain shower follow you and it's only following you. Whatever it is, you know, they mean things and and I'm happy to be able to bring this back to people. And I've been just amazed at being able to be in this practice myself for the last at least 4 years, but really multiple lifetimes and this entire lifetime. So please leave comments, suggestions. I really want to be able to invite and have more people coming through. Thank you for new subscribers and people that are coming back. And yeah, I'm going to be putting out a lot more information as we go here. And so ask me questions. There's a lot of stuff that I have that are showing up all the time. And I never know if it's going to be. I saw a giant yellow golden carpenter bee. Yeah, bees. Yeah. Yeah, see? And I'm responding to the comments. So seeing a really distinct animal like that, especially animals are one of the easier ways for us to become attuned to that other things are interacting with us that we can start becoming aware of. And then nature will definitely show us things. But like I said, sometimes nature is more of a kind of more social kind of sphere because if you're in an environment, usually weather patterns have to do with kind of like an area overall, whereas there can be nature elements, you know, that happen to just you. Usually animals are a very, very good indicator, like an immediate indicator of that. So yeah, start looking these things up. They're all over the, you know, the internet. You can find a lot of information about totem animals because gladly Indigenous wisdoms have been coming back up into our social sphere and our collective consciousness. Cicada bug. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I have so many things about cicadas. Yeah, like, just leave a comment or something if you want me to pull out some information. But that was, like, a really interesting one because you never know, there's so many different types of animals and insects and stuff in all different parts of the world, and there are animals that are extinct now that were omens. So that's a really interesting episode. Maybe I'll do that in October because that's like a really powerful indicator, you know, that our ancient civilizations and cultures had energetic archetypes or what Jungian, you know, understood and scientifically diagnosed as, you know, energetic archetypes. Um, we had these energetic archetypes and they're gone now. So what does that mean? You know, what did we do as a civilization, as a culture, as a society, as a species to have that particular energetic archetype not even in our material nature anymore? That would be a really, really powerful one. Oh, and look at it. There's my dragonfly friend. Yep. Okay. Now I know that I'm done with this episode because he just came back. Oh my goodness. But yeah, leave different types of animals that you've seen or that you're curious about because there's so many that I have. Yeah, cicada that absolutely showed up this last week. So anyways, I'm gonna go meet my buddy here, who was walking with me earlier and obviously has come back to say hi. And I have a lot of dragonfly energy around me apparently right now. So, anyways, everybody enjoy your holiday. Enjoy your day, evening, wherever you are in the world, whatever you're getting this. And come back. Like I said, leave comments. I'm reading them. I'm trying to respond to them as quickly as I can. Yeah, and just enjoy. This practice is about really just opening up our hearts and ourselves more and more to how things have been interacting with us that we might just not have realized, and bringing that awareness more into an everyday practice so that we can live in harmony again with everything that's around us, not just the man made structures and systems, but within everything. So, thank you for being here. Speak again soon.